For decades, we've been given a rule book on how to eat healthy, especially if you're trying to manage something like diabetes. But what if I told you that some of that advice wasn't just wrong, but was actually making things worse? Today, we're going to tear up that old rule book and look at a perspective that completely flips the script on what's truly healthy. So let's just start with this number, because it's a big one. The source material for this explainer makes a massive claim that a whopping 90% of diabetes cases could potentially be reversed. Yeah, you heard that right. Not just managed with medication for the rest of your life, but actually reversed. And the key isn't some futuristic pill. It's all about what we decide to stop eating. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the big question we're tackling today. What if the path to getting healthier means challenging everything we see on food labels? What if the real bad guys are hiding in plain sight, disguised as health foods? It's a pretty wild idea, so let's follow the breadcrumbs and see where they lead. Okay, first things first. If we're going to fix the problem, we need to know who the real enemy is. And according to this analysis, it's not fat, it's not cholesterol, it's not even salt, really. The number one public enemy that we're going to be hunting down today is sugar, in all its sneaky, hidden forms. Now, to hunt this sugar, we need a tool, and that tool is called the glycemic index, or GI for short. The best way to think about it is like a speedometer for how fast a food dumps sugar into your blood. A high GI food is like slamming the gas pedal. You get a huge, fast spike. A low GI food, that's a slow, steady cruise control. Much, much better. So here's the simple, actionable rule the source suggests. The goal is to keep the foods you eat under a GI score of 70. Anything above that number is basically in the red zone. That's what causes those nasty sugar spikes and inflammation that wear our bodies down. So just remember that number, 70. It's going to be our North Star for the rest of this. All right, with that rule in mind, let's go on a little scavenger hunt through some foods you probably think are totally fine. This is where we expose the imposters, the foods that are basically wearing a healthy costume, but are secretly just sugar bombs with a high GI score. Oh yeah, the great fat-free myth. Remember when everything was low-fat or fat-free? Well, here's the dirty little secret. When food companies took the fat out of those snacks, they had to put something back in to make it taste good. And what did they choose? You guessed it, tons of processed sugar and salt. So you get this snack that sends your blood sugar to the moon, while a whole food snack like nuts or avocado gives you stable energy and actually keeps you full. Here is a perfect example you'll find in any grocery store. On the left, that fruit on the bottom, yogurt. Sounds innocent, right? Fruit, yogurt, what could be wrong? Well, some of them contain up to 6 tablespoons of added sugar. That's not breakfast, that's dessert. Compare that to a plain Greek yogurt. It's packed with protein, has very little sugar, and actually keeps you satisfied. It's such an easy swap. And wow, this chart, this just says it all about the breakfast trap. Take a look. Even the stuff marketed to adults as healthy, like granola, can have 5 tablespoons of sugar. The kids' cereals? Forget about it. Some have 8 tablespoons. It's insane. But then look all the way to the right. Simple, non-instant oatmeal. 0. It's just a crazy illustration of how we've been misled. Okay, so we've pretty clearly identified sugar as the main villain. Now we're going to pivot to something that might actually be even more of a shock. It's time to totally rethink 2 things we've been told to fear for decades: fat and red meat. So you got to ask yourself, why were we so afraid of fat for so long? This quote from the source offers a pretty compelling theory. It suggests that the sugar industry actually paid for studies that conveniently blamed fat for all our health problems. I mean, what a perfect way to distract everyone from the real danger of sugar, right? It just reframes this whole debate. And that leads us to maybe the most controversial food of them all: red meat. For as long as I can remember, we've been told it's a villain. But the source material here says, hold on a second. What if red meat isn't the enemy? What if, in some ways, it's actually an ally? Let's see what they're basing that on. And look, this isn't just a wild guess. They point to a massive review of studies published in a top medical journal back in 2019. And after looking at all this data, the researchers came to a pretty shocking conclusion. They found that eating red meat in moderation was not significantly linked to things like heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. The key word there, of course, is moderation. And it's not just meat, by the way. This whole idea applies to other natural fats. Take butter. For years, we were told to eat processed margarine instead. Now we know better. Real butter, a natural fat, is making a huge comeback. It's all part of this bigger pattern. Natural is almost always better than heavily processed. So we've talked about the foods that trick you and the foods that might surprise you. Now let's get down to business. Let's name names and call out the absolute worst of the worst. These are the undisputed dietary villains, according to the source. I mean, let's just start right at the top with this one. It doesn't get much clearer than this. The source cites one of the most respected medical journals on the planet, calling potato chips the single worst food in America. Not one of the worst, the worst. Why? They're just a delivery system for calories with pretty much zero nutrition, and you can eat a whole bag without ever feeling full. So here it is, your official do not eat list. It starts with those fried potatoes, chips, and fries. Then you've got all the sugary drinks, soda, sports drinks, those so-called fruit juices. Next up are the obvious processed junk foods, like pastries and candy bars. And then two really big ones that are in almost everything: super refined white flour and white rice, and that supervillain ingredient, high fructose corn syrup. And this chart just shows you how sneaky sugar really is. It's not just in the candy aisle. Look at this. Almost half of all added sugar comes from drinks. That's insane. And sure, snacks and sweets are a big chunk, but look at the other slices. Ketchup, barbecue sauce, salad dressings, and yeah, there they are again, those quote-unquote healthy foods. Sugar is literally everywhere. Okay, we've talked about what to eat and what to avoid. But the source material saves its biggest, most powerful secret for the very end. It's a strategy that can have a massive impact on your health. It has nothing to do with what you eat, and it's something the food industry absolutely hates.
And that secret is intermittent fasting. I mean, just think about it for a second. The whole multi-trillion-dollar food industry is designed to get you to eat more stuff, more often. So what if the most powerful thing you can do for your health is to simply not eat for a while? It's kind of a revolutionary idea because there's no product to sell. You can't put a price tag on it.
Now, if the idea of not eating sounds totally extreme, just get a load of this case study from the source. A man, under strict medical supervision, fasted for 382 days straight. He lost an unbelievable 276 pounds, and the most amazing part, 30 years later, he was still healthy. Now, this is an extreme case, for sure, but it just shows you what our bodies are actually capable of. And that right there is the big takeaway. For pretty much all of human history, we didn't have a 24/7 all-you-can-eat buffet. Our bodies are incredibly good at functioning without constant food. Going for a while without eating isn't some weird, unnatural thing. It's actually what we're built to do. So let's end on this one final thought. We spend so much time and mental energy stressing out about what to eat, the right foods, the wrong foods, the perfect diet. But what if we've been focusing on the wrong question all along? What if the most powerful change we can make isn't about what we put on our plate, but about when we decide to leave that plate empty? Pretty fascinating thing to think about.